was living in a state of fear for a long time. And in the question that we often ask is, well, what if it fails? And
right.
what I should have been asking is, what if it succeeds?
Today will be the day it all will change.
Welcome to the Andrea Engstrom Show for bold women in business. We are passionate about helping you break through to your next level of abundance, success, and freedom so that you can create the life you desire and inspire others to do the same. I'm your host, Andrea Engstrom, and I'm here with my co-host, Brenda Stroud. Hey, Brenda.
Hey, girl. Hey.
Hey. Well, I'm excited for this show. On today's show, we are going to talk about finding your zone of genius. And our guest today is amazing. I'm so excited to introduce you all to LaTonya Roberts. LaTonya, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah, let me tell you all a little bit about LaTonya. So she transforms fledgling organizations into high-performing businesses as a fractional COO and HR consultant. So she draws from 18 years of experience across 30 countries, and she helps companies scale operations, build inclusive cultures, and develop leadership teams that drive growth. She's got practical insights on operational excellence and team building that make her a really engaging person to work with. And I'm so excited for her to be able to share some strategies with us today. And Brenda introduced me to LaTonya, and I'm so grateful for that.
LaTonya is amazing. I remember when I first met LaTonya, we are a part of a local real estate investment group, and we were on a call. And LaTonya started talking. I'm like, oh, girl is on point. I was so impressed with her. I reached out to her. We started meeting on the weekends, and she became one of my mentors as well with pulling together my coaching program and just how I wanted to present myself as a business and branding and things of that nature. So actually, both of you guys have mentored me. So I'm super excited to be here with you both today. But LaTonya, I was just super impressed with LaTonya. We've worked together on, we've done, real estate deals together. We recently JV'd together. So she's like family to me now. And I just really wanted to share her with you guys.
I love it. And LaTonya, Brenda's been talking about you to me for years. And so I was so excited when she was like, yes, let's get LaTonya. And you and I had a great conversation. So I'm super excited for today.
Hey, I love it.
Oh, yeah. Well, LaTonya, tell us a little bit about your journey in your career that led you to launch your own business. We want to hear like the hard stuff, the good stuff. Tell us what your life has looked like leading up to when you launched your business.
Sure. So as you mentioned in the intro, I started consulting 18 years ago. I know I don't look like it, but none of us
You're like 12, right?
Right. Before you were born.
Right. Yeah, I was born. And I had a kid, and I had another kid within a year. And consulting is one of those careers where it's very high energy. There's a lot of work, and you don't necessarily get a chance to take ownership of your career. But through mentorship, I knew that I had to do that, right? You're an entrepreneur within another business. And so I started out doing strategic planning, process improvement for government agencies. And then I met up with some other people that were more on the HR side of the house. And I was like, oh, I really love transforming people, working with the people side, because you can do all the back end stuff, but the people have to make the business run. Right. So I started taking control and doing more trainings and networking with people. So I did more HR projects. And then I got into my career and I started to burn out. And that impacted my family and it impacted my well-being. And I was like, gosh, there's got to be another way. But I was fearful. And I was like, okay, I'm going to stay in. And then 15 years went by, even though I knew I was meant to live life on my own terms. God put this vision in me and he said, okay, let's go. And so I got to a point, and it just happened to be during the pandemic. And he was like, okay, it's time. I don't know how God speaks to you or whomever speaks to you, but he yells at me or he makes things very, very hard. He was like, you're not listening. I'm going to make sure you listen. So he made life really, really hard for me. And that's when I decided to move from the DMV, DC, Maryland, Virginia area down to Atlanta. Gave myself a year of I'm going to quit my job and go all in on my business that I had been kind of hustling along the way, but not going all in on, and use my years of experience to really grow. during that time, I partnered with some other people because I don't believe in just doing it all yourself. Partnered with other people, and I grew a business from $300,000 to $1.2 million in a year.
Wow.
That's
Right.
fantastic.
And so scaling up to those 7 figures meant we needed someone that was a COO. And I had been kind of serving in that role, even though we didn't call it that. But I was the one that brought the strategy, the process stuff, the operations to this partnership. And I created a role for me. And I walked away from my job just under a year
Hey,
later, like I said, and have been doing that for the last 4.5 years. And I created a business out of that.
Wow.
wow. That's all I can
So
say is wow.
yeah, so I want to talk about that season of your life where you knew that you were meant for something more and
Mhm.
you stayed stuck.
Yeah.
And because I think that's a situation. Both of us, we went, like we
Yeah.
understand what you're talking about, and I think that's the common experience of so many women entrepreneurs that they go through that season of their life where they know that they're meant for something more. Talk to us about what that did to you emotionally, physically, mentally, like in that season of stuck.
Yeah. So we're mamas. We
Yeah.
know a lot of times when we become parents, we kind of put our own needs and our own priorities on the back burner, right?
Yeah.
And we start to compartmentalize and we say, you know what? I know I had this big dream and I had these goals, but now I have these little people that I have to take care of.
Yeah.
And that was where I was in my business. I was making, or my life, I was making good income, but I had these 2 little people that were really dependent on me. So I said, you know what? I'm going to suck it up and I'm going to just keep going in my career.
Mm.
But again, with the burnout, and it happened twice, I ended up having to cancel my daughter's slumber party, that she was really, really excited about. So I was like, oh, I disappointed her, but I kept going. And then it happened again, and I had fatigue. And I was like, okay, I know I need to start something. And that's where the beginning of my business started. It was resume writing, career coaching, but it wasn't necessarily the operations piece. I had to grow into that, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
But I kept going on in the business, and I just my health started to falter. I started getting upset, and eventually I started having panic attacks,
Mm. Okay.
thinking about the work that I was doing and how unhappy I was. And at that point, I made the plan to walk away.
Mhm.
And so, how the operations piece came about was I was trying to figure out exactly how do I bring all these years of experience together and make a career out of that? What does that mean? And it was really doing the research, right? Like operations is being that strategic player or counterpart to the CEO, which I like. I am a great number 2. Right? I don't necessarily need to be the person out front, but I can. I am one of those unicorns that can go big strategy, big picture, and then break down, the piece of how do you get it done. I have the gift of precision.
Mhm.
And so I started working with other people, and I realized that even in my job, people were coming to me for well, how do we do this?
Mhm.
How do we make things happen? How do we solve the problems? How do we get the difficult clients
Right.
to get on board with what we're doing? And I became that person,
Yeah.
right? And then in that new partnership, I was still that person. So I said, okay, well, operations seems to be my thing. And last year in the business, I said, okay, well, I've also been doing HR, but people came to me and were like, you know what? You're a beast at operations. You need to lean into that. And
Mhm.
so I did. And as entrepreneurs, we pivot in our careers a lot and we get a lot of shiny objects, but there's that thing that we become known for.
Mhm.
And everyone kept saying operations. And so I was like, okay, that's what it is. Operations that's my main girl, and everyone else is the side chick. And I'm not
I love
necessarily
that.
I'm not necessarily going to push the other stuff, but if it comes to me, great, because I can do it. But operations it is.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know, there's a book that we talk about a lot in my coaching groups, and it's called The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. And that's where I learned that term, the zone of genius. And I know a
Mhm.
lot of people talk about that. But there's a part in the book where he describes this this experience where if you know, there's multiple zones, right? There's our zone of incompetence, there's the zone of competence, there's the zone of excellence, and then there's our zone of genius. And what you're describing is that you were operating from a zone of excellence
Mhm.
for a very long period of time. And I think that that's our zone of excellence can be a trap because it is where other people want us to stay because it's comfortable for them. Like, no, keep doing what you're doing. You're so good at it. And it's also where we sometimes want to stay because we're scared to do something different.
Yeah, it's comfortable.
But
Mhm.
yeah, but if we stay too long in our zone of excellence, when your zone of genius is calling, it can lead to like physical illness. Like all the symptoms that you're describing are exactly what he talks about in the book. And we would think that that we would experience those things if we're operating like in opposition to the purpose of our creation or something like that. But it's when we're skirting the edges, when we're staying in our comfort zone, when God has a next level for us.
Right.
That's where we get sick and tired and bleh, and crying in our pillow. And then I don't know about you, but during that, you know, during seasons of my life when I felt that way, I was crying in my pillow at night. I was feeling like, and I felt like I should be. So I'm like, why am I not feeling grateful enough with the blessings that I have that I could
Right.
just be content? Why can I not just be content?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You know what's so funny because I did that. I had that good old ugly cry, like, God, what I'm doing isn't working. I surrender. I give it to you.
Yeah.
Right. And for so long, going back to your previous question, I now know I was living in a state of fear.
Mm.
And so getting back to the being trapped piece, and as well as all the other things that society tells you have to do and who you have to be and all that, you know, those stories, some true, some not. But I was living in a state of fear for a long time. And in the question that we often ask is, unfortunately, the first one is, well, what if it fails?
Mm.
And what
Right.
I should have been asking is, what if it succeeds? Right. And so once I let go of the what ifs and how do I, because I didn't know the next step, right? Which was really scary because as a consultant, you're paid to know the next step.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, I can do that for everyone else. I can tell you your next step. I can tell you how to back it up. I can tell you how to move it forward, all of that for everyone else. But for some reason, I couldn't do it for me.
Yeah.
And that was super, super scary. So I had to let that go.
Yeah.
And when I let that go and truly surrendered and said, okay, God, just give me the next step.
Mm-hmm.
Give me
Mm-hmm.
give me the resources. Show me what it is I need to do in the various ways that he comes to me. And I just took it one step at a time, day by day, and trusting and believing. And it's so funny when I moved down to Atlanta, every day something new was happening. And I was like, oh, I'm making progress here. And it was because I took action.
Yeah.
And so if you're busy taking action, the next step will appear.
Yeah. That's right. That's right. I think the one thing that you said when you mentioned surrender, I think for all of us who probably can relate to that, that's usually when the change begins. When you find yourself on the, you know, on the floor, or you're having those crying moments, because I mean, I've had them as well. You know, those moments where you just kind of like you've been dealing with the emotions and you hold it in for so long to the point where you have to let it out, and it tends to come out in crying. I know for me it does.
Yeah.
And that's when I realized, like, okay, I'm gonna take my hand out the pot and let God cook this thing. You know, I'm going to surrender. So whether you actually say surrender or it happens in your actions, that is what, you know, really starts the upward movement. That's
Yes.
what starts the part of, let me face my fears. I know it's not more than I can handle, but let me let go of this tight grip that I have on the same old way or the same old routine because it's comfortable, it's easy. Let me let go of this, which is equivalent to surrender,
Mhm.
And then, things tend to fall into place. So if you're at a point in your life where you haven't surrendered, you may, kind of want to start there. What is it that you're holding on to so tight
Mhm.
because you don't want to take the next step, or you feel you're not prepared to take the next step? And for the most part, we do tend to be prepared, but we
Mhm.
have to get on that other side where we let go. And that's
Right.
what I'm hearing you say, that once you were ready to let go of that place that you created, even though you were doing well, you were comfortable and you knew there was so much more for you. That's what I
Mhm.
like about when you share, LaTonya, is that it's plain to me what you're saying. It makes sense, to me, what you're saying. And you're not saying that I was broke and I was doing all these things. No, you were saying that, yeah, I was doing this amazing thing, but that's not where I was supposed to be. And I
Right.
had to be ready to go to the other side, and really flow in that space that requires me to kind of step out there on faith. And I appreciate that about your journey and your sharing. And that's probably the biggest attraction that I have to you, is that you're so comfortable and easy. And even though it probably wasn't, and I know that it probably wasn't to make that decision, it comes across like you can do it too, girl.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Sometimes we just need to see that, right? And it's
Yeah.
like, I'm scared, but I know that everything I want is on the other side of fear.
Yeah.
And if you are not someone that can truly walk in faith, you have to see it.
Yeah.
And so why not be that example for someone else?
That's great.
Mhm.
That's great. You're conscious of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay, let's talk about, so there's people that are listening to this right now and they are like, LaTonya, I am in the stuck part.
Mhm.
I am in the crying in my pillow, physically ill, panic attacks on the weekends. Like I am struggling to figure out what to do about this.
Mhm.
And so what is something that we can encourage that someone who's in that moment where they are where you just described that you used to be, what would you encourage them to do? Like they're like, well, take a step forward. Like, what do I do? Like, what is
Mhm.
Right.
the step? Like
Mhm.
what's something practical that we can share with them that would help them get unstuck or move towards figuring out what it is they're supposed to be doing?
Mhm. So, as coaches, we often ask, "What would you do if you weren't afraid?"
Yeah.
But that's great, and that works for some. But here's the real question: if one of your girlfriends came to you, your best friend said, "Here's my situation," what is the advice that you would give her?
Yeah.
Right? And I say that because often that removes all those barriers that stops us. We can say, "Girl, if I was you, I would be doing this, this, and
Mhm.
this." And you're your own hype person, and you're like, "You're amazing. Do you know you have these great gifts?" Same thing that my friends did to me. You have all these great gifts, and they pull it out of you and say,
Yeah.
"Oh, I didn't realize that." We don't always realize our gifts because they come natural to us, and
Yeah.
everyone else sees it and experiences it. And it's why they want you around, right? It's why all those people in my previous job, I made them comfortable.
Mhm.
And they didn't want me to change and do other things because they didn't see how they could benefit from it.
Yeah. That's
Right.
true.
And so it held me back. And I was like, y'all are comfortable, but I'm not. I'm over here crying at night. So pretend like you are talking to your girlfriend and giving her advice, or better yet, role play with your girlfriend and say, "Listen, I need you to be this person. I need you to help me problem solve this." Someone that you're real comfortable, and not the girlfriend that is your yes person. We all have that.
Yes.
Okay. Your person that is with love
Yeah.
going to call you out
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
tell you to stop hanging on to this. It does not serve you. I don't want you to stay in this place of fear. You've been complaining about this since yesterday, 2 years ago, 10 years, whatever. What are you going to do about it? And
Yeah.
oh, by the way, I'm here to help you in whatever way that means for you.
Yeah. 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 I think it is key to be mindful of who you surround yourself with and who you have certain conversations with.
Mhm.
That is just as important as having the conversation. Is making sure that you are in the right space with the right person when you are because you do need someone that's going to help you to go to the next level. Not someone that's like, oh, what are you talking about? You're fabulous. You don't need that all the time. You need someone that's going to pull you or push you in the direction that you're resisting, but at
Right.
least to allow you to see, that you can do it, and to encourage you to take that step. So you do have to be mindful at whose table you sit. You want wise counsel. So
Mhm.
that's great. That's a great point, I think.
Yeah. And I think that's why a lot of us reach out to a coach, right? Is because I look around me sometimes and in my normal, like I can't have those kind of conversations with somebody that doesn't understand,
Mhm.
because and most people I think don't have that person in their natural circles. They have to intentionally surround themselves with the people that will speak truth to them, that will tell you, girl, you're playing small,
Mhm.
and that see potential in you that you don't see in yourself. And for others, we can either join a group of really high level people, find your people, and for some of us, like, we need a coach, we need someone that we can reach out to. And I think that's one of the things that as a coach, and I know this motivates you, and I know this motivates you, LaTonya, is that one of my favorite things is spotting potential
Yeah.
in someone else and in someone else's business. Like, if I can look from the outside and go, wow, like, you're amazing and you don't even see it. Like, you can do these things and it would be so great. And I'm so excited to reveal this to you, or to encourage you that you can do this. And but most of us don't have that in our natural circle.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that I didn't mention this earlier, when I first realized LaTonya was a genius and that I needed to work with her, we bartered. Our first relationship was that we had bartered. I had something that she wanted, she had something that I needed, and we sat down and had that conversation. I wanted to be under her teaching, at the time, and she wanted to jumpstart her portfolio.
Yeah.
So she was like, "Okay, hey girl, look, this is what we gonna do. I'm going to meet you on Sunday, and we're going to talk about this in your business. And I want you to help me find a house for my daughter's going to college, and I need to find a student housing." When we got together on that first Sunday, and she shared her stuff, I'm like, "All right, girl, we're going around the corner. I'm going to show you a house." She bought that house in less than 30 days.
Oh, action figures. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. She's like, "Today we're going to, girl, I got the house already. Come on." Because I need what you have. Okay. But you don't have to do it alone. I say that to say
Yeah.
you don't have to do it alone. You can, and sometimes people think, I can't afford a coach, and how can I do this, and whatever the case may be. It's all in how you look at it. It's
Yeah.
all in how you value that need. And then you can be creative in some cases. We were able to be creative where we could create a win-win situation. But I just don't want people thinking that, yeah, that sounds great, but I can't afford it. Or it sounds great, I don't have time for it. Oh, I don't have room for it. You make room for it. You
Right.
have to. That's you choosing you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the way I see
Yeah. So, LaTonya, tell us more about your business today and what specifically do you help people with? Because I'm fascinated by this. I feel like I'm probably your ideal client. Tell me about what you do for people, because some people that are listening are like, what is a fractional COO? What do you
it. Yeah.
mean by COO? I'm a small business. I'm an entrepreneur. We don't have that job description in our company yet. So tell us more about what you do in a practical sense.
Okay. So I'll give you the tagline and then I'll break it down in an easier way to explain it. So I partner with female coaches and consultants to really scale their business with ease through operational excellence and sustainable growth. What that means is I help you stay in your zone of genius, get clear on what your vision is, and I take that vision and I work with your team members so you don't have to, because that can be a lot. Tell them what they need to do, how they need to do it, make sure that they're doing it, correct them when they're not doing it, make sure that there are measures in place or metrics in place to make sure that you are on track or off track and can pivot when you need to early. And then I help you make sure that you maintain that well-being so you're not burning out and falling out of love with the business that you've been building. And then when you are ready to take it to the next level, I pour gas on the fire.
Love it.
Love it. Okay, what's gas on the fire? Like, tell me more. Tell me
Yeah,
more.
what's gas on the fire? So that can come in multiple ways, right? That can come in the form of making sure that you have your processes documented
Yeah.
so that you can easily teach someone else how to do what you do. And so you step into your CEO energy instead of being that owner operator.
Yeah.
right? Because your job is secure the bag,
Mm-hmm.
go get the business, be the face of the company if that's what you so choose. Go out there, make the connections. Your job as you start to scale up is not to be doing all the things in the business. That's what you
Mm.
are going to start building a team out for.
Mhm.
So that's one way. The other way is going to be looking at some of those repeatable processes and figuring out, okay, who on your team can do this, or what systems or tools can take over this. So we are in the AI revolution
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
And so the workforce of the future looks like you're going to have some AI employees and you're going to have some human employees, because there's certain things that AI can do better and should do to kind of, help you do your content management, help you write those proposals, help you do your customer service, schedule appointments, some things that we're already doing now. We don't call it AI,
Uh-huh.
but let the bots do that. Your people are going to do those strategic tasks. They are going to make those human connections with people, right? So how do we figure out what is best for someone, a person versus
Mhm.
AI to do? And then as you start to scale, what are some of those partnerships? Okay, you created a business and being known for doing this one thing. What are those complementary services
Right.
that you can incorporate to build out your portfolio? So
Right. I
in
love
simple
it.
ways, that's what I'm going to help you do to grow.
I want that.
I want that. I want that. I love it. Yeah, everybody listening is like, oh my goodness, this is so exciting. And I mean, I think what you're describing is the ability to stop doing things that you hate
Yeah.
and that make you want to quit your life sometimes because they're not your zone of genius. They're sometimes your zone of incompetence or competence. And I think where even as entrepreneurs we will get stuck is doing things that we consider our zone of excellence, but that keep us from spending more time in our zone of genius.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so, like, for example, like I used to run a branding and advertising agency. I used to be a copy editor and a creative director. And that's a zone of excellence activity for me, but it is not zone of genius. And it is very easy for me to stay in those tasks of copywriting and editing and all of that stuff because I'm like, well, I'm really dang good at it. And if I have somebody, if I relinquish that or give somebody else control of that, what if they don't do it as good as me?
Right.
And so I use it as an excuse to stay stuck or to
Yeah.
stay like
Yeah.
working too many hours. And then we tell ourselves these stories like, well, I can't because nobody can do it like I can do it, or everything's going to fall apart if I relinquish control of that little piece of my business that I've done so well for so long. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you say something like, well, by the time I train you, I could have done it myself. You know what I mean?
I
If you hear yourself saying
Doing
that,
it
you won't.
and your business won't grow.
Yeah, that's right. You hear yourself say that, or you're thinking that, then you're wrong. Then,
Yeah.
it's time to transition out of that thought process. But that's how I know it's time to shift. If I hear myself say something like that, or I move in such a fashion that was like, this is I no longer want to do this or need to do this in order. I got to make room for someone else to step into this
Right.
because I should be expanding my thought process and my activities and my actions. So, but I'm at the same place. I just recently realized that yeah, I can flip houses. Yeah, I know how to buy houses or whatever. But this year, I'm not buying no more. I'm not flipping any more houses. I want to train other people to do that. I want to let other people do that so that I can make room for being a better coach or some of the other things where I can really pour into other people. But coming to that realization, waking up and realize like, no, I don't think I want to do that anymore. I mean, even accepting that
Yeah.
is a big step for me,
Mhm.
and knowing that I need some guidance as I move through that because it's very easy to slip back into that comfortable space.
Yeah.
But that's not what's best for me or the people that I'm assigned to encourage. So
Yeah. Yeah. I have so many women that I talk to that are doing fantastic things in their business are find themselves spinning in that zone of excellence for a while and I'm thinking about you right now, Brenda, is like the times when people are like, Brenda's amazing is not when Brenda is talking to a contractor at a location and like driving back and forth from projects. It's like when you're sharing your wisdom, when you are giving, sound advice, when you're listening and helping us think differently. I don't know how you feel about it, but I feel like your zone of genius is with your ability to impart that wisdom. And I am so excited for what is next for you, for like this next chapter. And it's kind of like we gotta, it's just like, I know it's a metaphor, but like in some businesses, it's like the owner needs to put down the hammer. Like we don't swing hammers anymore. Like we have to be the visionary, the CEO, and figure out what the zone of genius is. And so, LaTonya, when somebody is struggling to figure it out, like what are some clues? Like what are some clues? Like how does it feel when you're doing activity that it's in your zone of genius?
It lights you up. You get really excited about it. It doesn't feel like work. I know that's kind of cliche. You find something to do and it doesn't feel like, but it truly does that, right? Like last night, I was working till 8:00, and I'm like, but I love what I do, right? But if you ask me when I was at my job, work till 8:00, I'm like, no, 5:00. That's it. That's all I got. So it can be a feeling. It can be the thing that people come to you for. Often, if you start noticing those patterns of, and you may not notice it at first, but eventually it's like, everyone keeps coming to me and asking me this question, or I'm the go-to person for this. And I didn't even think that this could be a business, but anything can be a business nowadays.
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, it's a feeling. It's those little patterns, those little signals that he gives you. Even people just saying, can you help me with this? And you're like, yeah, I can.
Yeah.
I think of it sometimes also as something that you love so much, you do it for free.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And go ahead.
You love it so much. You love it so much. You do it for free, but it also it's also the thing that creates the most abundance, the most creativity, in the shortest amount of time. It's like if I can do this for 10 minutes, even it creates massive traction or shift in someone, or changes the trajectory of my business. Like when I'm doing that thing, and I think that's one of those clues that tells us like that's a zone of genius activity, is when you go, wow, I just spent 20 minutes doing that and it created the biggest shift or made the biggest difference. And it's usually not swinging a hammer, right?
Right.
Or
something that you do better than anyone else.
Yeah.
Even whether you realize it or not. And Brenda, I just want to just add on to what you said. It's the thing that I would do for free. Ladies, we give away so much of our power and our genius for free. I have spoken to so many people and said, yeah, I know you're giving it away for free, but girl, you need to get paid for your genius.
Yeah.
You need to get paid for that because you didn't get these gifts. You weren't born with these gifts in order to live in poverty. Everyone else is getting what they want and getting their needs met, but you aren't. You're still wondering how you're going to pay the rent next month. So lean into that and let go of the guilt that we often have for charging.
Yeah. Knowing our self-worth. Because that is you're right. That is the next step. That is knowing that, or knowing how to get to that. Because that might be part of it, may be not knowing how to value, whatever that is that you are transitioning from, realizing that, I do this so easily, and now I need to transition. How do I make that a business? So I think for some people, even for myself, I did not know how to value what sharing wisdom or coaching or whatever the case may be. So that's where you got to have a place to turn, and someone that can kind of help you to get there. So I think that might be all, that is the next logical step. Once you realize like, I'm pretty good at this, now what do I do so that I can match my desires to it being a business, and then knowing my self-worth when it comes down to this new lane you find yourself in, because it's new to you when you're trying to turn that into a business.
Mhm.
Now, and like you said, you deal with the guilt and everything. Now, how do I have it aligned properly to my skill set, to what it should cost or what I should, charge for it? So, and that is another like active step that you need to take. It doesn't just come to you.
Right, right. And that was one of the things that you and I worked on too when
Yeah,
you were starting your coaching business, because
yeah,
there's so many ways that you can go about doing that and setting that up. And you have to be comfortable with saying, I'm charging you $2,500 for
yeah,
3 months of coaching, or I'm charging you 25,000.
yeah,
Yeah.
You have people are borrowing your confidence,
yeah.
right? So you don't want to charge a number just because everyone else is charging it. Charge what feels right for you.
There was a realization in that conversation. I remember us having that conversation when we started talking about that. Was that, am I not valuing myself?
Mm.
In the way that I should. It made me again turn it inward and kind of
Mhm.
self-analyze. Why are you having such a hard time, identifying or putting some kind of description or value on the value you bring to the table? And it
Mhm.
could be those, whether it's society or someone in the back of your mind that leads you to believe that you should be giving this away for free. I know all three of us have been single parents or solo parenting at some point in time.
Mhm.
And you give so much of yourself to your
Yeah.
family, to all the other things, that when it comes time to turn it back to you, you do feel a little bit of guilt until you get on the other side of it,
Right.
because you're so used to giving, 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 and showing up for your kids, your family, or whomever, and not really showing up for yourself. So for me, I thought of that. It's time for me to show up for myself. It's time for me, to understand that the value I give other people, I need to now give it to myself.
That's right.
And that's
Stand.
how I looked at it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But thank you for that, though.
You're
I
welcome.
do.
Yeah. LaTonya, and I know that there's a lot involved in your processes and working with a client, but how do you help a woman, entrepreneur, coach, consultant, whatever it is, to identify what needs to come off her plate first?
Mhm. Um, I want to sit down and have us just a conversation. Tell me about the things that you do. What does a normal week? I'm not going to say a normal day because we're doing different things throughout the day, but what does a normal week look like? What are those tasks that you're doing all the time? Where do you provide the most impact?
Mm,
What are some of those things that you think an assistant or someone else can do? Not necessarily that you're ready to delegate, but what can we take off your plate? I tell
mhm.
my clients, I need to fire you from some of your jobs.
Yes.
You doing about 10 things, girl. You are one person. I need to fire you from some of your jobs.
That's
So
great.
we are going to go through what does it take to run your business successfully. And it's really just a brainstorming session for them.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back and do the analysis and say, okay, I think you can move this. I think you can move that. What do you think about that? Are you ready? Some things I'm going to force you to do now. I'm like, did you know if you spend a little bit of money here and have someone else do this, you would have more time to do this.
Yeah.
And this can grow your business by X amount.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you put it like that to people and finding out what their motivations are and their fears,
Mhm.
you help them see the bigger picture.
Yeah. Yeah. I like the way you describe that. Fire yourself. I need to fire myself as a property manager. You're
Doesn't
fired.
it,
Work on that.
doesn't it sound exciting? Like, I want to get fired from some of the things that I'm doing too. I think this is great.
Yeah.
Great. It'll be the first really positive approach to that most
Yeah.
people have
Fire
had. I
yourself,
love
baby.
it. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Take off some of those hats.
Yeah.
It's not
A
that
lot of
serious.
women need to hear that one right there.
Mhm.
That's gold right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I was going through an exercise, I love that book, Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. Y'all read that? It's so good. But one of the things that I was doing in my time and energy audit was I was identifying, because I don't just look at my business, I look at my personal stuff.
Yeah.
And the first thing I want to fire myself from is doing dishes and laundry and grocery shopping, because I was like, look at how many hours per week this is taking. And it's one of the easiest things to get help with in your life is like, okay, if that energy, like I was like, what are my soul sucking activities that I never want to do and that drains my energy and that I feel like it takes away from my family time, and then I feel guilty and I'm gonna fire myself from some of the most toxic activities that are in my life first, so that I can have that energy be directed towards my family and spend more time doing the activities that actually earn me income.
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes we think like, oh, it's compartmentalized. No, time is time. And we can happily work on something in our zone of genius until 8 o'clock at night. But I promise you, if you're doing laundry at 8 o'clock at night, you are not happy.
Yeah. You know, and it's so funny. I love that you brought up the personal side of it, because I tell people you need to have your personal team, your home team, and then you have your work team.
Yeah.
Right. And it's so easy for us to think about when we on the personal side, we hire a babysitter because we want to go hang out with our partner, we want to go hang out with our friends, and we don't feel guilty about that.
Mm-mm.
But if we say, I'm going to hire a house cleaner, all of a sudden we're guilty. Listen,
Yeah.
I've had a house cleaner for the last 4 years.
Yeah.
I like a clean house. I don't like to clean. And I do not feel guilty about her showing up every couple weeks. I mean, I pick up every now and then, but baby, yes, please come in. There will always
Yeah.
be a budget for a house
Right.
cleaner.
Yeah.
So
Nothing
you
wrong
build
with
your
that.
home team and you build your work team as well, and don't feel guilty about it, because you have 24 hours in the day. You determine what you're going to do with that 24 hours.
Yeah.
And if you're like me, and it sounds like the two of you, your family is such a big part of that. And as you're building your business, there's a lot to do. You are limited on resources unless you come from money. And maybe if you do come from money, you're still limited on resources. You've got to figure out a way to make that work.
Yeah.
And the time is the one thing that you can't necessarily change. So how do you maximize your time? And one way to do that is to build your team.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's
Right.
awesome.
Well, I love this conversation. LaTonya, one of the things we do each episode is we like to encourage our listeners to take bold action. What is one thing that you would challenge listeners of this episode to do this week to take bold action in their life and their business?
So I'm going to go with what we've been talking about, and how can you fire yourself? I want you to do a couple of things. The first one is really write out, or if you're not a writer, pick up that phone, open up the memo recorder, and record what are those tasks, those must-do tasks that need to happen in your business to make it successful. Get it out. You can take the transcript, load it up into ChatGPT or Claude or whatever AI you use, and say, what are some things that I, as the CEO, should be doing? And what are some of the tasks that I can delegate to someone else? And what is that role?
Mm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And chat will tell you exactly what to do.
Yeah.
I love this idea. Like
Yeah.
sometimes I think we don't always think about like what are the specific things that I could ask for help with from
Yeah.
a tool like that. So I think
Yeah.
that's a super smart prompt. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Beautiful. Well, LaTonya, I feel like we could talk all day, but I know we got to wrap this thing up. We've all got an appointment that we got to get to after this, but I just want to say thank you so much for coming on with us, sharing your story with vulnerability. I appreciate what I've learned from you today, and I know our listeners will as well.
Thank you so much. It's been
Thank
great.
you for being here. I appreciate you so.
Yes. Well, sisters, if you want to gain more clarity in your life and your business, I want to invite you to join me for a free workshop for women entrepreneurs. You can register for it at AndreaEngstrom.com. And LaTonya, I know that you do lots of things to help entrepreneurs as well. What is the best way for our listeners to connect with you?
Sure. I'm going to give you two. You can go to my website, harmonyconsultinggroup.org. Or you can join me in my free Facebook community, which is the Harmony Ops Collective. And I am teaching you different ways to streamline your operations, connect, build, and grow your business.
I love it. I love it. And Brenda, how do our listeners get connected with you?
You can go to my website, brendastroud.com. As well as you can go to I have a Facebook group as well, the Legacy Squad, and you better ask somebody. which is my coaching program.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. Well, y'all, if something resonated with you today, share this episode with a sister. Leave us a review. And I appreciate you so much being our listeners. Till next time, I'm Andrea Engstrom, and we are your sisters in business, encouraging you to take action on your dreams. Show up to your life with power and authenticity. Be bold, be tenacious, make it happen.
Bye.
Today will be the day, it all will take. Nothing, no one's in my way. Today will be